What's going on, Reject Nation? It's Greg Alba here.
And I'm John.
So today we are going to check out a video from one of my favorite YouTube channels, WhatCulture, 9 theories on how the Avengers might disassemble. Ooh la 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 la. But before we do that, we wanted to give a shout out to our video sponsor today, and that is this app called Quid. If you guys like things such as, Bob's Burgers, Breaking Bad, Rick and Morty, I know John does, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Five Nights at Freddy's, Star Trek, and of course, Marvel. If you said yes to any or one of these things, then you're going to love today's video sponsor.
Quid allows you to collect and share digital stickers, gifts, trading cards, collectibles, and you can even share them with your friends and people all over the world, and they're all based on some of your favorite TV shows, movies, and video games.
You can track stickers and cards in terms of rarity and build your own unique collection across a variety of themes and properties.
Plus, Quid has its own keyboard, so you can insert your cards and gifts and stickers right into your iMessages.
John definitely did that while I was using the bathroom today.
I did. And new to the app, they got tons of Marvel stuff, stickers and figures and all sorts of things. They're pretty rad, and we're pretty excited to have Marvel on. It's been a long time coming. So if you like what you see and you want to start collecting, you want to start sending cool gifts and stuff to your friends, hit that link in the description box, download Quid today, and jump on. It's available on Android and iOS. It's a little smoother for iOS at the moment, but hey, join us.
It's awesome. Guys, make sure to download that. And also, last but not least, shout out today for none other than Kent McKnight.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe kicked off in 2008 with Iron Man and promises of an epic team-up to come. But how will it end? Nobody knows the answer to that question. With the future of Marvel's old guard, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Hulk uncertain, there have been rumors that the shared cinematic universe has reached its endgame. But that doesn't appear to be the case. Films including the sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 are set to land in the ensuing years. So, can anything stop this superheroic juggernaut, or will external factors render the universe untenable? I'm Rue from WhatCulture.
Can't imagine.
This is 9 theories on how the Avengers might be disassembled. 9. The heroes bring peace to the universe. Otherwise known as the generic happy ending, the Marvel Cinematic Universe could one day reach a rounded conclusion that sees the comic book giant's mightiest heroes vanquish all of their enemies and bring peace to the universe. Thanos is unlikely to be the ultimate big bad for the MCU. In the comic books, he's a complex character who's fought to save the galaxy almost as many times as he's threatened it. So it seems someone else will replace the Mad Titan at the top of the food chain and raise the stakes even higher. Planet-eating Galactus would be the ideal MCU final boss. Thanos sees our heroes unite, but a threat like Galactus would force villains to join the Alliance too. Once this new nemesis emerges, we could be in for another decade's worth of comic book adaptations before the series comes to a head. 8. The universe is unmade. There are characters and artifacts in the Marvel Universe powerful enough to unmake reality, from the Living Tribunal to Thanos' fully stocked Infinity Gauntlet. There could come a time when Marvel Studios feels a hard reboot is needed. Iconic roles like Iron Man and Captain America will need to be recast, probably sooner rather than later. And a universe-shattering event presents the opportunity for an organic reset. A reboot could, of course, come many years after the current cinematic universe has been concluded, but Marvel has the option to trigger a hard reset at any time by having Thanos snap his fingers, or by encouraging the Living Tribunal to pass judgment on all of existence. 7. A shift towards standalone films. Rather than bringing the MCU's walls crashing down in an apocalypse, Marvel could choose to gradually phase it out by shifting back to standalone films. There are hints that this is happening already, with Marvel teasing that Phase 3 will be followed by something dramatically different. Before the MCU, comic adaptations were typically self-contained, dishing out a few installments before rebooting and reloading. The original Avengers brought Earth's mightiest heroes together, Civil War pulled them apart, so perhaps Infinity War and its sequel will send
I love the MCU.
where only strictly solo adventures are allowed. 6. Bad reviews kill the series off. Any film with the Marvel branding is guaranteed box office gold. Edward Norton's The Incredible Hulk is the closest the MCU ever got to a flop, and even that made $263.4 million off a budget of $150 million. So it's safe to say there's little risk of box office bombs being its unmaking. But what about negative reviews?
That has an effect now.
MCU films have struck that sweet spot. between critical acclaim and commercial success. But Hollywood is awash with cautionary tales about how quickly things can change. Take the amazing Spider-Man franchise, for instance. One minute Sony was plotting its own cinematic universe, the next it was licking its wounds from a critical battering, sending Spidey back to Marvel on loan to repair his dented reputation. Granted, the MCU is built on more solid foundations than Sony's Spider-Verse, but could a string of poorly received movies spark a backlash from both fans and critics? As its stories grow more complex, it's not unimaginable. 5. The superhero bubble bursts. Steven Spielberg has said that the superhero genre will go the way of the Western. Between the MCU, its DC competitor, and Marvel's X-Men universe, 5 to 7 major comic book adaptations are released each year, and when the Western was in its heyday, oversaturation quickly set in. Critics have been talking about the superhero bubble bursting since the third entries in the original Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. They evolved, though.
Adamantium balloons.
Hair looks weird, though.
And such talk never seems to die out entirely. But shared universe fatigue is a reality Marvel must face. If Spielberg ends up being right, and Hollywood does fall out of love with superheroism, there's a chance Marvel won't get to end the MCU on its own terms. 4. The MCU's timeline is altered.
That's more likely.
A hard reset isn't the only device Marvel could use to shape its future. The firm's comic book arm has often used time travel to rewrite its status quo. The X-Men series is notorious for this, and Fox's movies dabbled with it in Days of Future Past. An epic time-hopping crossover could be the only way to bring the curtain down, allowing Marvel to surgically remove the heroes it needs to retire, either for contractual reasons or because they're just far too old and frail. Introducing a character like Kang the Conqueror, a cosmic villain with the ability to travel through time and space, would help MCU pull this one off. Kang dates back to the early days of Avengers comics. His ability to time hop could be a game changer, enabling some drastic
That'd be cool.
the cynicism.
That'd be really cool, actually. I love
3.
that.
Avengers versus X-Men.
Yes.
Nobody knows where Marvel's MCU or Fox's X-Men will be in 2020.
This was made before the Disney Fox deal, this video.
The 2012 comic book event Avengers vs. X-Men would be an ideal way to bring the two franchises together and to a close after many decades. Fox is hard at work building its own X-Men cinematic universe, but even a few years ago, the idea of Spider-Man joining the MCU would have been dismissed as folly. Crossover events seem to get bigger in scale all the time. Civil War made the original Avengers roster look threadbare, and Infinity War is even more ambitious. So bringing together every character from the X universe and the MCU is the natural next step.
It's gonna change things, man.
Fox put the effort in, they could wrap up 2 mega franchises in style and pave the way for a new age of superhero films. 2. With a movie TV crossover. If a crossover deal can't be reached with Fox, perhaps Marvel could look closer to home. Their cinematic and TV universes have so far remained separate, but the comic book giant could finish them all in one big double whammy. Whatever the MCU's next big storyline is after Thanos, it's bound to be even more incredible with added Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and the Punisher. Like Avengers vs. X-Men, it could be a real status quo buster too, this time across both mediums. This is the kind of stunt Marvel should consider if they've any hope of topping the first 3 phases. And one, well, it never ends. Fans have speculated about how the MCU might end, but what if it simply never does? Let's face it, there's no end in sight right now. Even underwhelming Marvel films pull in the kind of box office buck and fresh reviews most other franchises dream of. The movie series is modeled on its comics counterpart, and these have been running uninterrupted as an ongoing interconnected story since the early 1960s. Granted, there have been reboots, hard and soft, but the books have always existed within a shared universe. Every time Spielberg's prophecy of doom threatens to come to pass, a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy or Winter Soldier comes along to prove just how flexible the genre really is. Perhaps the films will enjoy the same level of longevity as the comics, undergoing various restarts across generations, but always existing under one beautiful banner, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How do you think the MCU might meet its end? Leave a comment below with your ideas and we'll pop them over to Disney. Until it's... share and subscribe.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. All done. 50-50.
Okay, well, some of those are some good theories. Some of them I just don't buy, like the world coming to a peaceful end. Like, they just make the world a peaceful place. You know, the universe is
way too vast now.
I mean, the universe is unmade is a great way to do it, but I think the MCU is going to continue on for a while, a long time, because I don't agree with Spielberg's quote. If you look at Western movies, the problem with Western movies is they all sort of felt like they were all following the same tropes. One thing about the MCU is while they have a beat sheet, a structure that can oftentimes be the same for their origin movies specifically, usually their sequels will really mix it up. The sequels and the crossovers will really mix it up, and the DC movies are not the same as the Marvel movies. I know Disney and Fox have now merged, but the X-Men movies haven't been the same either. When you look at Westerns, a lot of the Westerns felt very similar, so the oversaturation, I could see why Spielberg would go at that and go, well, look what happened with Westerns, but I'm like, nah, the Western genre was treated very differently in terms of the way they were created. So I don't think it applies the same for superhero genre.
Well, and Westerns are period by design. They harken back to something very specific.
They're stuck in a very specific bubble. Right?
And there are neo-Westerns and stuff like that, but obviously that's not, you know, the prevalent genre. No. I feel like superhero movies and Marvel movies especially have improved the longevity of this genre by mixing it up a lot.
And they also cross-genre a lot, too, which is the thing that keeps it sustained. I guess my concern, specifically in regards to the MCU, because what are we, like 17, 18 films in now with the MCU? And they dish out like 3 films a year? This is a studio. This isn't just this isn't a produced franchise, Marvel Studios. I'm thinking, okay, what about 20 to 30 years from now, when are there still going to be MCU movies that are all in this one long giant timeline? Because I think about the longest running franchise, which is the Bond franchise, and the Bond franchise, the reason why it can continue on for so long is because its storyline isn't so essential.
It's never almost never connected to the previous movie.
I mean, and I remember when I saw the first 3 Bond movies with Connery, they're connected, but after a while, up until like Daniel Craig again, then they started reconnecting them. But even the Daniel Craig ones are not the strongest connected ones. Or like Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale, sure, but there's always like just little things that are connected. The MCU, though, is so specific on its ties and on its connection. It's such a big part of what makes the adventure so thrilling and exciting and important. I'm thinking, well, what about when we're 40 movies in and there's all brand new teenagers, and are they gonna have to go back 40 movies ago just so they could keep up to date with everything? Or are they gonna like do a thing where every 3 phases they soft reboot in a specific way where a new generation can just hop on board for these new films, especially when they start rebooting Iron Man, get a new Iron Man, get a new Captain America and all that.
That's one of the things that made me think the most during this video, is that they are going to have to recast a lot of their main players soon. Yeah, I feel like they would be smart to develop some kind of, and I believe they can develop some kind of cycle, I guess you'd call it, where they do update it or refresh it or figure out who's staying, who needs to be rebooted, and how do we do that. That seems really tricky to me on the one hand because it is so vast. I don't know if we'll ever get to a point, because they brought this up too, about just standalone films. Just like most of these films are just standalone. And I don't feel like we're going to get to a point where it's exactly that way. I feel like another step in this can be that they're going to start making smaller or more isolated ones along with Elseworlds would, or whatever Marvel's equivalent of that is.
I feel like it'll be necessary because of the point I was bringing up. The whole thing about the excitement of characters crossing over is because we're able to follow the timeline and lineage of all these standalone adventures and when they were in previous movies before. But when you're like 40, 50 movies in and you got a whole new generation of kids who are going to be wanting to watch this stuff, and they make a lot of this for kids to like get the toys and stuff, I think you will have to lean a little bit more on standalone films, new characters, rebooting with standalone films as well. I think they will do fixing
the timeline or messing with time travel. I feel like will definitely figure in somewhere. And I like the idea, I forget that character's name, but I like the idea of doing it that way, of bringing in some kind of character whose whole thing is space-time, you know, to mess things up and to alter things. I'm afraid that's going to become, you know, a go-to trope, but at the same time, it seems like the handiest way to reset a machine as big as this.
Yeah, I really don't believe there's such a thing as a superhero bubble that's gonna burst. I mean, negative reviews can affect it, because, I mean, we had a long-ass discussion at like 3 in the morning last night about the effect that Rotten Tomatoes has on movies and franchises now, more than we think.
Yeah.
And the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, if they start getting consistently bad reviews, I don't think they're gonna go anywhere. I think they're just gonna try to find a way to get it back up and make the movies good again. I think we got at least a couple decades set for these guys. I really do.
I don't think the bubble will burst ever entirely. I don't think we'll ever see a time in the near future where superhero movies aren't a prevalent piece of the movie marketplace, just because, to go back to the Western argument, they're very now. They're very right now, and they're very in the zeitgeist. There's something that we love, and there's something that so many people have grown up with over so much time.
These comic books have been around for decades. And plus the comic movies, they know how to adapt.
And that's one of the best things in the face of comments like that they've proven, you know. And I think that, I don't know if the bubble would ever burst entirely, but I can foresee a time where maybe they're not quite so popular, and maybe we don't want 6 of them a year. You know, because there are a lot, and I think we as a nerd culture are coming to the idea that there are a ton of these movies. There's so many.
And there's so many more we can make.
And so many people. Yeah, there's so many more characters, and there's so many. And so I think part of this too is that the kind of storytelling is going to have to update, because there's only so many times we can see a traditional superhero movie.
I thought when we were going to watch this movie, it was going to be about how the Avengers in Infinity War would disassemble. I didn't realize this was going to be a video about
MCU.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be about that, the MCU falling apart in a way.
I don't feel like the whole thing would ever end unless Marvel went down, because think it like they brought up another good point, is like the way comics have been going for years and years, and they're all kind of cross-pollinating with each other. I feel like Marvel has done a good job of translating what the comic book structure is to the visual, the moving visual medium.
And now that the MCU has X-Men and Fantastic Four, oh man, it's just going to evolve and get crazier. And I think in some ways it could get worse or better. It's going to be one of the two.
And I bet there will be growing pains, but in the end, they'll probably just do what the comics do. Like, reboot stuff that way.
That's a great thing, because if anything, a lot of the times your safety net is be more loyal to the comics. Like, it's a safety net.
I don't think the MCU is going to end entirely. Plus, generations keep rolling over, and they're going to be new generations of Marvel fans, and Marvel movies are going to change.
And wrapping this up, I want to give a shout out to Kent McKnight. Kent McKnight is one of our patrons from Australia.
Australia.
Is that better? Australia. We've done 2 Google Hangouts with this guy. He's been so busy lately that we haven't had a chance to hop on a Google Hangout with this guy. What's really interesting about this dude is he has the pledge that qualifies for him to be part of a Google Hangout. Hasn't been able to do it lately, but yet he's been so supportive and so kind that he hasn't even lowered his pledge.
Oh,
that's amazing, dude. So really do appreciate it. I hope we can talk to you again soon, buddy. And I hope you have a really grand Merry Christmas. And
a Happy Hanukkah if you're Jewish.
He's not Jewish.
In hindsight.
I talked to him about his religious beliefs.
Happy Kwanzaa, Kent.
If you have no beliefs, you celebrate Christmas. That's just the way it goes. We miss the hell out of you because you're such a delightful person to talk to. You got such an engaging smile. I love you, buddy. And last time we talked to you, you were single. I hope now, on Christmas or New Year's, you could stand under a mistletoe and get a little suckety-suckety action.
That's a big mistletoe.
In a love way.
Oh,
he'll launch his missile, that's for sure.
Love way.
Johns, I said Kent will launch his missiles.
Ha ha ha, mistletoe. I always thought mistletoe was like what?
No, the missile's the reference. He's launching his missile.
I don't understand this.
After the suckety-sucky, he's launching his missiles.
Oh, yes, this innocuous metaphor that you've come up with. This completely appropriate metaphor. It doesn't mean anything.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. You can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Subscribe to WhatCulture while you're at it.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out our Patreon. Become a Patron eject today. It's like a second YouTube channel. A lot of discussion vids over there. Yeah. And last but not least, make sure to follow that link and check out Quid.
Yeah.
We got the app right now.
Get yourself some Marvel stickers, man. Get yourself a Marvel Funko Pop or something.
Text your best friends while they're pooping.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does.